supply chainers, wherever you are in the world. This is Sarah Barnes-Humphrey with you today. Are you ready? Let's talk supply chain. Hello, everyone, and happy Tuesday. My name is Sarah Barnes-Humphrey, founder of Let's Talk Supply Chain, the Blended Podcast, founder of the Blended Pledge, and I'm here with you for Thoughts and Coffee today. Now, I know it's the day after Labor Day long weekend. Everybody's busy getting kids back to school, getting back to work, ramping up for the end of Q3 going into Q4. But if you're watching, thanks so much for joining us. We've got a really cool show for you. Now, Audrey Ross, my trade bestie, she's going to be joining us, and we're going to be talking about retail, but also drones and forklift championships. That's right. Apparently, there's forklift championships, and I'm going to show you all about that. But we couldn't have this show without our show sponsor. So I want to give a shout out to the Secret Society of Supply Chain. Go and check them out, secretsocietyofsupplychain.com. If you are looking for a community, we have a community just for you. The supply chainers have best practices, exclusive content you will not find anywhere else. Plus, we've got a virtual monthly meetup for women in supply chain, and it's being said that it's better than chief.com. And we've got a virtual monthly meetup for marketing professionals in supply chain, which is the first of its kind. So again, head over to secretsocietyofsupplychain.com and check out which community is right for you. All right. Let's get down to business because we've got a lot to talk about today. We've got a brand new episode. Now, this is episode 424, wherever you listen to the podcast. You can watch it on YouTube. You can listen to it on Apple and Spotify and all of the places. You can also check it out at letstalksupplychain.com. Now, I sit down with my friend Larry Cuddy. He is the CEO of Linksys, and we're talking about orchestrating and optimizing your terminal operations. And they have a vision of the future that is unlike anything else that we've had on the show. So definitely highly recommend you go and check out this episode and find out what they're working on, because it is going to change the landscape for a very long time. All right. Next on Friday, Eric Johnson is going live for LogTech Live, Shippers versus Tech Procurement. Tackling truckload troubles. Well, I can't wait to see this one. Tune in at 10 a.m. Eastern, but remember to click the attend button, even if you can't attend live, because I'm going to send you the recording. Next, we are going live Thursday, September 12th at 12 p.m. Eastern. I'm going to be coming at you live from LA, and we are going to be talking about future-proofing supply chain operations. Now, this is all about new research on leveraging technology for lasting impact in the supply chain space. And we've got some heavy hitters here. We've got Jamie from Seco, Dennis, we've got Jared from CargoWise as well. So this is going to be a really, really good one, guys. Click the attend button, even if you can't attend live, and we will send you the recording. Next, Christine Barnhart, Wednesday, September 18th, 10 a.m. Eastern. She is going live for Supply Chain Unfiltered. She's going to be talking about a journey of innovation and customer excellence for Summit packaging. Now, packaging is a really big deal. I just did a live a few months ago, and I think it was a yeast company that supplies yeast for beer. And they had to redo their packaging because they didn't take into account all the supply chain things when they were looking at their packaging. So this is a really good one. Click the attend button. I'll send you the link, even if you can't attend live. Now, I don't know if any of you have seen this, but Mary over at Fender sent this to me. And apparently there is something called the Forklift Championship over in Germany. I don't know if you can see this and if it's coming up really well, but apparently they do these forklift championships and they have to move these incredibly, I don't know, not very sturdy structures and be able to place them without things falling off. Now, I don't know if you want to go and check this out, but we've put the comment or the link in the comments. I thought it was pretty fascinating, so I wanted to show that over to you. Next, I want to let you know where we're going to be. So in person next week, I'm going to be at IANA Intermodal Expo, September 9th through the 11th, and I'm going to be hosting IANA TV. So if you're there, come say hi. I'd love to see you. And then in September 25th, 26th, I'm going to be at the Gain Summit, and then I'll be at Inland September 30th through October 2nd. Both of those are happening in Chicago. I'm going to be hosting Inland TV. And then the end of October, I'm going to be at the NMFTA conference. Now, this is all about cybersecurity. If you have any questions about cybersecurity, all the experts are at this conference. So hopefully I'll be able to see you in Cleveland then. Then I'm going to be judging the Supply Chain Excellence Awards. These are going to be in Miami. I know it says London, but it is in Miami, October 28th. And I'm going to be at the Women in Supply Chain Forum, November 12th and 13th in Atlanta. And then, of course, Manifest 2025, February 10th through 12th. Now, if you haven't gotten your tickets for any of those yet, head over to the links in the comments and register, because I'd love to see you there, and make sure to come say hi. All right. That was a lot. I didn't think I had that much to go over, but now it's time to bring up the infamous Audrey Ross. Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Good. You are coming at us.
Good.
I just want to say how grateful I am for you. I know you're my trade bestie, and I talk about this all the time, but I am grateful for you because you're coming at us live from the cottage. You
I
made
am.
time for us this morning.
I am. I was like, you know what I want to do on the Tuesday morning after a long weekend? I want to see what's happening in the world and go on, let's talk supply chain.
And share your market update with the world.
Yeah,
Now, we've got some
because
really
that hasn't
fun
stopped.
but I sort of tailored this episode to you because you
Yeah.
love fashion. You've been part of Fashion Group International in Toronto for a number of years. And this episode is kind of all about retail, which is totally your jam. So for anybody who doesn't know who you are, why don't you tell everybody who you are and what you do? And if you're in the comments, I want to know where you're tuning in from.
Yeah. So today I'm in Port Sydney, Ontario, which is about 2 hours outside of Toronto. What do I do? Right now, with sometimes I'm sure people know sometimes with vacation coverage, over the summer, it seems like you do kind of a lot of different
Oh,
things.
that's true.
So it's been an interesting summer in that way. I am a trade compliance nerd. I am doing kind of in-house consultations on import and export activities. I'm the president of the Organization for Women in International Trade here in Toronto, and if you head over to our website, you'll see there's quite a few updates on things that are coming up this fall. We have a fantastic board, so I'm really excited about that. And of course, I'm repping Blended, so I'm happy to be part of that with you, Sarah, and with our group, doing offering micro grants to conference speakers and attendees. So yeah, I keep busy. Keep busy over here.
Just a little. Now, I
So
want to give a
keeping.
shout out to Jennifer. I need to look into upcoming
Yeah.
events. She's in Chicago. I'm going to
Yeah.
be in Chicago. We're going to be doing a Woman in Supply Chain dinner in Chicago, Jennifer. Send me a DM on LinkedIn. Would love to have you there for that one. So definitely send me a DM.
Yeah.
I'm going to be in the area too, so I'm going to be meeting with a lot of people as well. So let's
Chicago
get
is a
you
great
on our
city.
calendar. Yeah. All right. So let's get to our poll of the week. So the question, how are you? And we ask this on the Let's Talk Supply Chain LinkedIn and Instagram every single Wednesday morning. So if you want to be part of the conversation, make sure to head over there on Wednesday mornings. But the question that we asked, how are you approaching sustainability in your supply chain? Now, this is really interesting because we're going to be talking about this in an article a little bit later on in the show. And you kind of don't have any excuses anymore. And we're going to get to that. But I do want to get to the poll. So we had almost 100 votes. If you haven't voted, go and vote. 44% of you said reducing carbon footprint. 33% of you said circular economy practices. 19% said ethical sourcing audits, and 4% said other. What did you think about this, Audrey? How are you thinking about sustainability? Is it on your radar? What does that look like?
Yeah, it's definitely a big piece of a lot of the cultures I'm working with. So, and it's been interesting because I think a lot of people have been focusing on the product that they're selling, which is really good. So that circular economy piece of
Mhm.
how is the product that I've created and I'm selling into the market going to kind of cycle through the whole market, right? Not the end point is not the consumer anymore. The end point is like, well, okay, where does it go after the consumer has finished with it?
Mhm.
So I see a lot of that. And then I've also in our industry, it's interesting because that focus on the product, there's focus on facilities, right? So changing your facilities management, greening your facility to be more energy efficient.
Mhm.
greening your, bringing some ESG kind of into your hiring practices, your compensation practices. So that's been a big focus. And then I think supply chain and emissions, for a lot of people, that kind of scope 3 segment is sort of been one of the later pieces that they tackle, but it's really coming through to the forefront right now. And we know a lot of people have made commitments of by 2025. Well, we're 4 months away from 2025, so
Mhm.
hopefully we don't see a lot of those push out to like, well, by 2050. So we want to make sure people are kind of being accountable of those targets, but it's across the board for sure.
Well, and there's some regulations, and again, we're going to talk about this in
Absolutely.
a little minute and a bit, because those are coming down and they're
Mhm.
actually going to push all of these options to the forefront where people and supply chain teams aren't going to have a choice. Now, Morgan
Yeah.
Wilson said transparency into the disparate systems. That's right. We are
Yes.
still working in silos. We do need a little bit more transparency to be able to do some of this sustainability. But again, I feel like there's a lot of folks that are going to be forced into this because
Mhm.
of regulation, and they are looking at 2030. So you just
Yeah.
said, we're 4 months from 2025. But we're 5 years from
Not
2030. 5 years is not a long time. We need to
no.
plan for these regulations and what's gonna come down and how we're gonna put that into, our sustainability practices.
And they have to be embedded. Like right now, I think a lot of us, it's a pull report, right? We're feeding information maybe
Yeah.
to someone who's tackling it, and it's almost an extra task,
Mhm.
as opposed to that piece of information, that thread. Although you do see it's carried through now on a lot of logistics platforms and a lot of the carrier platforms. You do have kind of a carbon emissions tracker. There are lots of softwares and kind of partners out there to support you. But Lars Jensen at the TPM, wasn't this year, I think it was 2 years ago, was like, get a carbon footprint, get a number
Yeah.
that you're starting to track, because even if it's not 100% accurate, you
Mhm.
have something that you are tracking. You can consistently embed that and start tracking it throughout your company, throughout your supply chain, because it is, it's coming, so you might as well get started now.
So true. All right, let's get to the market update. I have a
Yeah.
bit to contribute as well,
Yeah.
which I
Yeah.
usually don't, but I found this article and I was like, "Oh, we can't really do 4 articles, but I do wanna put a highlight on this one." But I want you to start first. So what
Okay.
what are you kinda seeing? What should people be looking out for?
I'll be quick. It'll
That's totally
so
fine.
okay, so we have, and if you're following Sal Mercogliano, if you're following Lars Jensen, you're getting the updates on the Red Sea crisis. That still is a crisis. It remains an
Mm,
ongoing huge pressure point for the industry. It's driving costs, driving accommodations for other vessels on other routes. There's a potential environmental issue, which could be, I think it's listed as maybe the 5th worst oil spill in the world, with the kind of damage that's happened to a vessel called the Scythian. So that's in the Red Sea. So there's kind of
mm,
a lot happening there, but the diversions continue around Africa if you're shipping from Asia to Europe. Um, Panama Canal is kind of back up to full, which is nice to see. So things coming around to the East Coast are, it won't have a delay in Panama, but we're coming to the end. We're into September now. October 1st is the, I guess, contract deadline for the ILA dock workers, which are the East Coast US ports. So there is kind of heightened awareness now as we come back from
mm.
that break. We were able to put it out of our minds. And then now, as we step into Tuesday, Stephanie Loomis over on LinkedIn has a really great post about that situation and sort of what her insights are. And she's been, she has a lot of experience in this industry. And then CNCPKC here in Canada
Yeah.
has,
Somebody asked me
they're
about it the
back,
other
it's
day.
moving. I don't know. I would not say it's resolved or settled. I would say there's a lot of contention. The vibe is not great. But stuff is moving and you can track it now. They've gotten, they're back to it. But yeah, it was not a fun experience, and it'll likely have some ongoing kind of regulation, legislation, negotiation kind of
Yeah.
consequences.
Well, they were forced back to work, and then I
Yeah.
believe there's still going to be protesting in a
There's
variety of different
4
ways.
appeals. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So there's still quite a bit of movement.
It's
There's
a
still
lot of
quite a bit of
yeah.
stuff that could
Yeah.
happen. So stay on your toes, stay vigilant, and
Yes.
stay up to date in the news. Now, thank
Mhm.
you for that. I wanted to highlight this particular article before we get into the next one. Now,
Mhm.
Google was denied data center planning permission in
Mm.
Dublin, Ireland. Now, I wanted to bring this up because part of what we're talking about is sustainability, but I also want to talk about this as a part of a warehouse strategy. One of the reasons why they were denied was because of the energy pull on the
Yeah.
electrical system. But also, if we're looking at space for data centers, those are going to eat up some warehouse space as well that we're going to be needing for inventory if people are looking to move their inventory to different places. So I wanted to bring this up really quickly. We've put the link to the article in the comments just so you can go and read it. It's
Mhm.
not necessarily specifically related to supply chain, but I think there are some adverse effects. And one of the reasons why I wanted to bring it up because I thought it was interesting as to why they were denied. And now they're going to be looking at other locations to be able to fill that void, but
Mhm.
also because of the pull on the electrical grid. And so we're all going to be doing that, right? If we're going to be building more warehouses and having inventory and things like that. All right. So let's get to our first article. I think you sent me this one. Did you send me this one? The Tesco one?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
did. I
Yeah,
did.
this was great. So now we just talked about sustainability practices, planning with the poll. And it's interesting, right? Everybody's focusing on carbon footprint. If you're in the retail sector, though, and you are shipping to the EU or you're in the EU, you want to know about the digital product passports. If you have not heard about these, you need to go and read this article because EU is imposing responsible corporate behavior and they're using the words global value chains. They're not using the word supply chains. We're now into global value chains. But
Mhm.
these digital product passports are coming down the line and they are to inform consumers. Now, Audrey was talking about, what happens after the product is sold. Well, these digital product passports are not only going to talk about the materials and how these products were born, they're going to talk about the environmental impact and they're going to tell the consumer how to dispose of it or where the recycling centers are and how they can recycle it. Now, this gets really into the detail. Now, I've been talking about the regulations on product coming into the US and some of the product being denied because they've got forced labor in their supply chain. This takes it to a whole nother level. What did you think of this, Audrey?
It's fantastic, and I kind of wanted to highlight it too because it's written by my fashion group international board member Hilary LeBlanc,
Mm.
who's a writer here in Canada for Black Atlantic and does a lot of work in and around the Atlantic provinces, but also she's based here in Toronto. So shout out to Hilary. But this is great because I had seen this at a conference in April, and another company was kind of doing this traceability. So it's not far on the horizon, and there are brands who utilize that kind of storytelling as well, right? So they have, the kind of story of where their product was made. And that's a point of interest when you're trying to kind of stand out from the competition. But now we can see that EU regulators are going to kind of make it, tie it to your global value chain and make it mandatory, which is very good. But it will add a bit of an industry challenge.
Well, they're saying that all clothing must have a passport by 2030. Remember how I
Yeah,
said,
exactly.
2030
We're
is
now at
only
2030.
5 years
Yeah.
away. Now,
Yeah.
Tesco is quoted in this article because they're well ahead of a lot of the retailers. They have a 4-page sustainability report on their website.
Nice.
So if you're not thinking about sustainability, if you haven't really written about sustainability and your plans and your programs, et cetera, a 4-page report, like they go down to the minute detail.
Hmm.
But they're also saying that some of the unsold product needs to be disposed of in a certain way. And that's one of the reasons
Yes.
why in these QR codes or even RFID tags for the digital product passport is going to share with people how they can dispose of it properly. And honestly, it's so smart because at the end of the day, a lot of people don't necessarily dispose of the packaging or the product properly because
Hmm.
they just don't know
Yeah.
potentially, right?
Well, because
Where they
every
can take
product is different.
it. Mhm.
I mean, every product that you get is different and you have to learn, right?
Yeah.
So it's like you have to self-educate yourself on the 80 products that you've bought in a
Right.
week, from your groceries to your new sweater, to your
Mm.
to the vacuum that you bought. And that's a huge expectation to put on customers.
Well,
So it's
yeah,
great
because
to see.
I have an example right now. I have a
Mm,
Rimowa suitcase that I've had for
yeah.
years and years and years and years. It's now
Yeah.
to the point where it's been cracked too many times. I cannot use it. We tried to use it on the last trip. It just barely squeaked through. Anyways,
Yeah.
I want to recycle it. But I've left it here. It's been sitting here for a while just because I have to do the research and try to figure out how to recycle it. Where do I take it? What does that
Yeah.
look like? Are there depots? Is
Yeah.
there another life that can come out of it? Can I take it back to Rimowa? So I haven't done the research yet, but it just goes to show an example of how something's sort of sitting around when it could have another lifespan.
Exactly.
All right, let's get to our next article. If anybody has any questions, we'd love to hear from you in the comments, by the way.
Yeah.
All right,
Definitely.
now I bring this up. If anybody knows me, I have always loved the Ted Baker brand. I mean, my background is British, so that probably helps. But I just think their some of their designs got a little quirky. I mean, in the past recent years. But anyways, I have really, really liked this brand. And when I walked into a store, I think it was when I was in Orlando, they were like closing sale. And I was like, what is going on? So during my research, I found this Forbes article and it talks about how Ted Baker's likely closure of all
Mhm.
UK stores, which I thought it was just North America, but this is across the board for the brand. Now, some of the things that they've talked about in relation to why they are closing down: leadership. Digital transformation was second on the list. We talk about digital transformation all the time. If you're still using Excel, please, please, please go and read this article. The rise of fast fashion, agile supply chain strategies. They did not have one. They
Mm.
could not keep up with the innovation and what was happening in retail because they didn't have an agile supply chain strategy and sustainability consciousness. It was kind of like a little too little too late. It was saying in this article that they tried to resurrect and fix some of these problems. Now, what did you think of this article?
I mean, I thought it was a classic case study of a business. You can see the brand name, you can see the kind of advertising or reputation that's out in the market, but then the behind the scenes is not necessarily
Mhm.
matching up with that. And so these are challenges that all of us are going to face. I mean, I think those 4 points are like, if your business can't master these 4 points, then yeah, Jennifer.
Sorry, I
and
didn't want to interrupt, but I was like,
and
that's funny.
sometimes brands do that. They're following these trend colors. You're like, but that 80% of your audience can't wear that color or isn't
Mhm,
going to like that pattern. So yeah, you have to know your audience a little bit, even if
mhm,
that keeps you trend wise in a bit of a different space. But to not be able to meet the market where they are, which is now, there's a huge e-commerce options. There's definitely brick and mortar runs differently than it used
mhm.
to. Um, these incoming digital passports, a supply chain that's run on post-its and Excel, like it's untenable at this point to be running your business that way. So, and I think Ted Baker's kind of getting out while they can still manage that situation.
Well, one of the things that I thought was kind of interesting was they said the new consumer is ethical. Like that's
Hmm.
what they're worried about. But one of
Okay.
their downfalls was the rise of fast
Yes.
fashion. So I'm like,
Yeah.
that's kind of like hypocritical
Yeah.
in the fact that they're saying the
Yeah.
new consumer is ethical, but at the same time they're buying fast fashion.
They're buying fast fashion. Yeah. They want to be ethical, but they can't afford, Ted Baker was a higher, probably
That's
mid
true.
price point. So
That's true.
if
I
it's
always
not
have it
going to
on
be
sale.
ethical, then people aren't going to choose, you're not going to choose the $200 skirt if
Mhm.
it's not ethical over the fast fashion skirt, because at that point, ethics is out the window. Nobody's sustainable. You're just choosing for dollar.
So true.
So,
So true. So, a couple of lessons learned in this article, if you want to go and read
mhm.
it: razor sharp focus on customer demands, like what customers want.
Exactly.
They're saying that your supply chain needs to be agile because
Mhm.
that consumer want is going to change, and you need to be able to keep up with that. The
Mhm.
second one is digital
Yeah.
transformation through and through and through and
Through
through.
and
I
through.
don't know how
Yeah.
many times we
Not
have to
going
talk
away.
about it, say it. There's technology programs that are out there everybody. And we've most likely had those solutions on the Let's Talk Supply Chain podcast. So you can head over to the website, put in the keyword, that solution will come up. You can find out all about them without getting into their sales funnel. And then they want them personalized. Consumers want everything personalized. So those are the 3 key lessons from what happened with Ted Baker. For your supply chain teams, for your organizations, if you're working in retail. All right. Last but not least, let's talk about this article. Did you send this one to me too?
I think I did too.
Yeah. Okay. This is awesome. You made this week so much easier for me. So they're talking about how IKEA expands its inventory drone fleet. I am having problems with words. I don't know if it's
holiday Tuesday.
It's right after a long weekend, but bleh. I should have done my exercises, my vocal exercises, actually. So what they're saying is IKEA has large warehouses with lots of large items, and there's a lot of ground for humans to cover. And so they are looking at drones to help them. They've actually color coded them to the IKEA colors, which is blue and yellow.
Customized to the consumer's desire.
Hey, that's a good point. Yes, whoever they're working with was like, hey, we don't care about the color. Let's customize them to what you want. And really, if you've got people walking around, because in IKEA, you do, right? People are walking around. You want to be able to see those drones, but you want to see them in your brand colors because it's all about keeping the brand in front of the consumer. But what these drones are doing is they're giving around the clock updates, and they can actually reach heights that humans can't, or it takes humans a long time to get to because you have to pull over equipment to be able to do that, plus safety issues on this one. What did you think about this? Because, you know, we've been talking about drones for such a long time. We've been talking about drones for delivery. I think one of the companies just pulled back on drones for delivery in one location. I can't remember where I read that. But for drones in inventory, if you have that large of a space, it kind of makes sense.
It just makes sense. It's like warehouse robots. I mean, it just makes sense in spaces like those to be utilizing these tools. And I think, you know, I've brought up before worker safety, worker health and safety. You know, when you talk about pulling out some of that larger equipment, people are reaching on shelves. They might not have double checked the weight of the carton. The carton might be too heavy for them. They're getting repetitive injuries. So these tools like that sort of exoskeleton backpack we were looking at a few weeks ago, the robots, these drones, these are great tools to kind of keep employees' health and safety top of mind, but also it's a very effective way to get the job done. It's simply more efficient to have the drones going up and down the warehouse. They're probably able to do scans, so that's like checking, you know, a lot of scanning barcodes and things like that to really understand the inventory picture, do that counting for you. So, you know, it's a great new innovation, especially, you know, if you have a lot of companies have these larger warehouses. So great tool.
Well, and mood booster. I mean, think about it. I don't know if anybody saw my Instagram reel. If you're not following me on Instagram,
definitely do
follow
that.
me on Instagram, Sarah Barnes-Humphrey. I actually post a lot of the things that I do, more of the things that I do in my stories, so you can follow along a little bit more. But we have a reel of me dancing with a robot. I am not a very good dancer, but let me tell you, these things are mood boosters. You could have a robot that, you know, you could maybe have a minute and just like dance it out with. I think they're fun. I mean, the drones are a little bit of a different story. You can't really dance with those, but
maybe not.
I think the robots are a lot of fun. Well, listen, unless you have anything else to share, I think that's it for today.
Yeah. Whoa, what an episode.
Wow, we got through a lot and we're not even at the 30-minute mark. Well, thank you so much to everybody who tuned in this week. I'm going to be coming at you live from LA, I think twice next week. So Thoughts and Coffee, I'm going to have Shayna from Atco on the show, as well as I think one of her customers as well. It's a really, really cool episode. So check it out when it comes out. It should be coming out tomorrow. And then again, I'm going live from LA next Thursday for my LinkedIn Live with CargoWise and WiseTech. So can't wait to see you all while I am traveling next week. I'm going to be hosting IANA TV over in Long Beach for IANA Expo. And I hope you all have an amazing week ahead. Audrey, thank you so much for joining us from the cottage.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, what a great show.
All right. See you.